It's 3 a.m., and I'm not asleep. I'm staring at the ceiling like it owes me an explanation. The room is dark except for that stupid little light on the smoke detector that blinks every 40 seconds, and I've counted it 47 times now. The refrigerator hums from the kitchen like a low-grade anxiety soundtrack, and there's a cup of coffee on the nightstand that went cold 3 hours ago. I didn't even take a sip. I just needed something to hold. On my phone, still open, is the email. The one that starts with, "We regret to inform you," and ends with my hopes flatlining somewhere around the second paragraph. I'd been praying about that opportunity for months. I'd done everything right. I'd prepared, I'd networked, I'd shown up early and stayed late, and I'd even felt that little nudge in my spirit that said, "This is it." And then, nothing. A polite rejection. A door slammed shut so quietly I didn't even hear the lock click until I was already on the other side, holding my cold coffee and wondering if God had me on mute. Maybe you know that feeling. That weight on your chest that isn't quite panic but isn't peace either. That nagging thought that cycles through your mind at 3 a.m. like a broken record: why hasn't this happened yet? What am I doing wrong? Does God even see me? I'd be lying if I said I didn't ask those questions that night. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't angry. Not the righteous, holy kind of anger, the ugly, tearful, fist clenched under the blanket kind. The kind where you whisper things you'd never say in church. God, I've been faithful. I've been patient. I've tithed. I've served. And this is what I get. Here's the mirror moment. Right here. Because I know I'm not the only one who's ever felt like their prayers were hitting a brass ceiling. You've been there. Maybe it wasn't a job rejection. Maybe it was a relationship that crumbled, a diagnosis you didn't see coming, a child you've been praying for who's still wandering, a financial hole that keeps getting deeper no matter how many seeds you sow. You've lain awake at night, staring at your own ceiling, replaying your own failures, and wondering if heaven's voicemail is full. That's the universal experience of waiting. It's not pretty. It's not Instagrammable. It's 3 a.m., cold coffee, and a blinking smoke detector. It's the early hours of a Monday morning now. I can feel the weekend's numbness wearing off, and the dread of a new week is creeping in like a fog. In a few hours, I'll have to put on a face that says, "I'm fine," and tackle the same struggles I've been wrestling with for months. The same unmet needs in my family. The same pressure in my finances. The same hollow feeling where my sense of purpose used to be. I'm exhausted, not just physically, but spiritually. My faith isn't gone, but it feels thin. Stretched. Like an old t-shirt that's been washed too many times and might tear if you pull on it too hard. I don't feel equipped to face another week of closed doors and silent heavens. I don't feel like a warrior. I feel like someone who's losing. But here's the thing about 3 a.m. It's dark, but it's also quiet. And in that quiet, a memory surfaced. Not a booming voice from heaven. Not a miraculous sign. Just a quiet, almost forgotten memory from years ago, another closed door, another rejection that felt like a death at the time. I'd been passed over for a position I was certain God had ordained. I'd fasted. I'd prayed. I'd had people lay hands on me. And when the no came, I was devastated. I questioned everything. I questioned God's goodness, His promises, His very existence. For months, I walked around with a limp in my soul. But you know what happened? That no saved my life. I didn't see it then, but I see it now. The company I was so desperate to join imploded 18 months later. A scandal. Lawsuits. People lost their homes, their reputations, their marriages. The people who got the job I wanted ended up in a disaster I couldn't have survived. God didn't reject me. He protected me. He didn't close a door to punish me, he closed it to preserve me. I just couldn't see the framing from my side of the timeline. That's the first memorable truth I want to plant in your spirit today. Delay is not God's denial, it's His quiet rearrangement. The silence you're hearing right now isn't absence. It isn't abandonment. It may very well be the sound of a door being framed, a door you can't see yet because the architect is still building it. And he doesn't build flimsy things. He builds with purpose. With precision. With a view of the whole house that you and I, standing in the hallway, simply don't have. I'm not telling you this as someone who's figured it all out. I'm still in my own hallway right now. I'm still waiting. I'm still staring at ceilings and reheating cold coffee. But that memory shifted something in me tonight. It didn't answer all my questions, but it quieted the accusation. It reminded me that my feelings, as real as they are not prophets. They don't get to tell me the final word on my future. Only God does. And His track record, if I'm honest enough to look back, is actually pretty solid. So I'm sitting here, still tired, still uncertain about tomorrow, but there's a fragile little flicker of hope that wasn't there an hour ago. It's not a roaring fire. It's more like the pilot light on a stove, small, but enough to keep things warm. Enough to keep me from giving up. And I'm asking myself a question I want to leave with you, hanging in the air like the hum of that refrigerator. But what if the silence isn't empty? What if it's the sound of a door being framed? That's been my whole month. Maybe your whole year. Here's the mirror moment I didn't want to face. I've been treating God's closed doors like they were stuck. Like the architect of the universe forgot to oil the hinges. Like if I just pushed a little harder, strategized a little smarter, sent one more follow-up email, said the right thing in the right tone at the right time, I could force it open. I'd refresh my inbox at 11:47 p.m. like a slot machine junkie, waiting for the jackpot of a yes that never came. I'd replay conversations in my head, scripting and re-scripting what I should have said, as if I could retroactively manipulate an outcome that God already held in His hands. I'd lie awake, not praying, not surrendering, but strategizing. Plotting. Trying to become the co-author of a story I wasn't qualified to write. The fear that drove me was this: if I stop pushing, everything falls apart. If I don't make it happen, it won't happen. That's not faith. That's functional atheism with a praise and worship soundtrack. I trusted my anxiety more than I trusted God's timing. I believed my sleeplessness was somehow productive, as if my worry was the fuel keeping the universe from collapsing into chaos. It's exhausting to play God. It's also gaslighting yourself into believing you're the only one holding things together, when in reality, you're just the one losing the most sleep. But what if the door you're pushing isn't just closed? What if it's locked from the other side, and the one holding the key loves you too much to let you walk into a room He never designed for you? I hit a wall on a Thursday. Not a metaphorical wall. I was sitting in my car in a parking lot outside a coffee shop, and the song on the radio ended, and in the silence, it was like the Holy Spirit just dropped a truth into my chest so heavy I couldn't ignore it. I'd been reading Revelation 3 verse 8 the night before, not because I'm some super spiritual giant, but because I was desperate enough to open my Bible app instead of my email for once. And the words came back to me in that parking lot: I know your deeds. See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut. And then the part I'd always skimmed over: I know that you have little strength, yet you have kept my word and have not denied my name. Little strength. That was me. Running on fumes, caffeine, and a prayer life that had devolved into one-word desperation texts to heaven: help. Please. Why? But here's what hit me: the verse doesn't say, I will place an open door. It says, I have placed. Past tense. Already done. The door I was supposed to walk through was already open. The ones I'd been pushing against. They weren't stuck. They were shut. And not by the enemy. Not by bad luck. Not by the economy or the hiring manager or the person who ghosted me. Christ himself holds the key of David. What he opens, no human can shut. And what he shuts, no amount of shoulder banging, email refreshing, or 3 a.m. strategizing will pry it open. That's when the memorable truth landed like a brick through a stained glass window. God doesn't just open the door of opportunity. He also closes the door of destruction. That no, you're grieving right now might be the most protective thing he's ever done for you. The closed door isn't a rejection. It's a shield. It's a filter. It's the hand of a father who sees the snake in the next room and slams the door before you step inside. I started thinking about all the prayers I'd prayed that seemed to hit the ceiling and bounce back. The job I didn't get 3 years ago, the one that would have moved me to a city where I knew no one, away from the community that would later carry me through the hardest season of my life. The relationship that ended without explanation, the one I mourned for months, only to find out years later that the person I was so desperate to marry had a secret life I couldn't have survived discovering. At the time, those closed doors felt like punishment. They felt like God had put me in timeout while everyone else got to play. But from this side of the timeline, I can see the framing. I can see the protection. I can see that the delay wasn't cruelty, it was divine rerouting. Here's the shift that happened in my chest that Thursday, sitting in a parking lot with a cold cup of coffee and a heart that was finally starting to thaw. The tightness began to loosen. Not because my circumstances changed. My inbox was still empty. My bank account was still sad. My future was still unclear. But my understanding of who was holding the keys had shifted. I realized my anxiety wasn't just fear of the unknown. It was a need for control. It was a deep, ugly belief that if God's timing didn't match my timeline, then God must be late. And if God was late, then maybe he wasn't good. And if he wasn't good, then I was on my own. That's the lie that kept me pushing doors marked pull. But waiting isn't passive punishment. It's active preparation. The silence isn't a void. It's a workshop. The closed door isn't a dead end. It's a detour sign written in mercy. And the architect who's framing a door you can't see yet isn't slow. He's thorough. He doesn't build flimsy entrances that collapse in the first storm. He builds with eternity in view. So tonight, if you're leaning against a door that won't budge, I want you to take your shoulder off it. Step back. Breathe. And consider this, maybe the door isn't stuck. Maybe it's locked from the other side, and the one with the key isn't keeping you out of your destiny. He's keeping destruction out of your future. He's filtering what you couldn't see coming. He's protecting you from a version of your life that would have shipwrecked your soul. And there's another truth, a shield you never knew you were carrying. Except I didn't get wet. I'm not being poetic. I'm being literal. The rain was coming down in sheets, the kind of rain that makes news anchors use words like torrential and seek shelter immediately, and I was standing in the middle of a parking lot with my arms full of groceries. But when I got in and slammed the door, my shirt was dry. My hair was dry. The paper bags weren't even soggy. I sat there in the driver's seat, windshield wipers losing their mind against the glass, and I felt something shift in my chest that had nothing to do with the weather and everything to do with the second scripture I had been wrestling with all week. Psalm 5 verse 12. I'd read it before. I'd highlighted it in a mustard yellow Bible back in college and never thought about it again. But that morning, in the downpour that somehow missed me, the words came back like a song I'd forgotten I knew. For you bless the righteous, O Lord, you cover him with favor as with a shield. That's the other truth. The shield you never knew you were carrying. Here's the mirror moment I need you to sit in for a second. Think back over the last 5 years of your life. How many times were you absolutely certain you were about to break? The layoff that should have buried you. The betrayal that should have made you bitter. The diagnosis that should have taken you out. The season where every single thing that could go wrong did go wrong, and yet somehow, you're still here. Still breathing. Still believing. Still able to smile at a stranger in the grocery store even though your heart's been through a blender. How do you explain that? But I'm telling you, sitting in that parking lot with dry clothes and a storm raging outside my windows, I heard the whisper I'd been too busy to hear for years. That wasn't resilience. That was favor. That was the shield. God's favor is not a fragile, lucky charm that cracks when you drop it. It's not a lottery ticket you hope gets pulled. It's a covenant shield. Covenant means it's not based on your performance this week. It's based on His promise. And His promise is that He surrounds the righteous, not the perfect, not the people who never doubt, not the ones who have their act together, but the ones who are in right standing with Him through Christ. He surrounds them with favor like a shield. A shield. Battle-tested. War-proven. The kind of covering that doesn't just block what you can see coming, but what you can't. That's the part that wrecked me. The favor that shielded me from dangers I never even knew existed. Let me give you a real-life, relatable example because I need you to feel this in your bones, not just nod your head. 3 years ago, I wanted a promotion so badly I could taste it. I prayed about it. I fasted about it. I rehearsed my talking points in the shower. I was qualified. I was ready. I was the obvious choice. And then the email came. We've decided to go in a different direction. I was devastated. I sat in my cubicle and stared at the wall for 45 minutes, questioning everything. Questioning God. Questioning whether I'd heard Him wrong. Questioning whether He even cared about my career. Fast forward 18 months. The person who got that promotion had a nervous breakdown. The toxic culture I was so desperate to be part of. It chewed them up and spit them out. They're still recovering. I'm not telling you this with any satisfaction. I'm telling you this with a trembling kind of gratitude. I thought I was being rejected. I was being protected. I thought the door was locked to keep me out. It was locked to keep destruction out. The memorable truth I need you to carry into this week is this: God's favor doesn't just give you what you want. It guards you from what you can't see. It's the shield that blocks the bullet you never heard fire. It's the detour that saved you from the bridge collapse 15 miles ahead. It's the closed door that kept you out of a room where the floor was about to cave in. You've been calling it disappointment. Heaven's been calling it deliverance. And here's where everything turns. This is the major pivot. I'm not just telling you a nice story so you feel warm and fuzzy and then scroll to the next video. I'm asking you to do something that will feel uncomfortable. I'm asking you to stop striving. Stop pushing. Stop trying to manufacture outcomes that only God can orchestrate. Your anxiety isn't a strategy session. Your 3 a.m. ceiling staring isn't problem solving. It's control dressed up in pajamas, and it's exhausting you. I want to invite you into a prophetic act of faith. Not a magic formula. Not a wish upon a star. A public act of surrender that aligns your heart with a reality that's already true in the spiritual realm but hasn't fully manifested in your circumstances yet. In the comments below, I want you to write these words with sincerity. Don't just type them. Mean them. Let them be a decision, not a performance. Write this: I receive God's favor, and I trust His timing this week. Say it out loud as you type it. Let your fingers and your mouth and your spirit agree on this one thing. I'm done fighting for control. I'm done treating closed doors like their punishment. I'm done believing the lie that God is late. I receive the favor that opens what needs to be opened, closes what needs to be closed, and shields me from what I can't see coming. And I trust His timing. Not my timeline. Not my 5-year plan. Not my desperate midnight deadlines. His timing. Now let me pray over you. Not a polished, rehearsed prayer. A parking lot, dry clothes in a downpour, heart wide open prayer. Father, I come before you right now on behalf of the person listening to my voice. They're tired, Lord. They've been pushing doors that won't budge and grieving closed doors they didn't understand. They've been carrying financial stress that makes their chest tight at night. They've been navigating family tension that nobody else sees.